Sometimes the most extraordinary hero can come from the most ordinary beginnings. For Peter Parker, the young man destined to be known as Spider-Man, that journey unfolds quietly at first, rooted in the streets of Queens. Peter is a bright, kind-hearted teenager with a secret. He has gained incredible spider-like abilities, and he uses them to help others in small, unseen ways. In his homemade suit, he swings between apartment buildings and stops petty crimes, dreaming of doing more, yet still just a high school student with homework and chores. What follows is a gentle, winding path through challenges and growth, as Peter evolves from a wide-eyed newcomer among heroes into a brave Avenger who learns the true meaning of responsibility. In this soft bedtime-style retelling, we will drift through each chapter of Spider-Man's story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, from his first encounter with Tony Stark to the trials that test his heart and his resolve. Each part of his journey will unfold calmly, allowing us to share in Peter's adventures, friendships, and the lessons he learns, all in a soothing narrative. We'll see his hopes and worries, his triumphs and sacrifices, as though we are watching a friendly neighborhood hero's tale told by a gentle voice. Now let us begin where Peter's story in the MCU begins. His unexpected introduction in Captain America: Civil War. Captain America: Civil War. Peter's quiet life takes a sudden turn when he finds Tony Stark, the famous Iron Man himself, sitting in his living room. It's not every day that a world-famous Avenger appears at your apartment in Queens. Peter, just 15, is starstruck and a little nervous. His Aunt May Parker kindly offers Tony some food. Not entirely sure why this billionaire is here, in Peter's small bedroom, Tony reveals he knows Peter's secret. The young Spider-Man has caught Tony's attention through online videos of Peter swinging through the neighborhood in a homemade suit, doing what he can to help people. Tony speaks to him with a mix of humor and kindness, impressed by Peter's quick wit and good deeds. He even cracks a joke with May, making the awkwardness fade a bit. Before Peter fully realizes what's happening, Tony offers him an extraordinary opportunity to come along and help with a problem the Avengers are having. Peter can hardly contain his excitement as Tony hands him a sleek, new Spider-Man suit, tailored with Stark technology. It's far more advanced than Peter's old sweatshirt and goggles ensemble. Tony doesn't dive into too many details. He simply tells Peter to pack his bags for a trip to Germany under the guise of a Stark internship. Overwhelmed and thrilled, Peter agrees. He tries on the new suit in private, eyes wide at its high-tech features. In that moment, the teenager who had been swinging alone through Queens suddenly feels a step closer to the world of real superheroes. Soon, Peter finds himself whisked to a German airfield, caught up in a conflict much bigger than anything he's known. Two groups of Avengers are facing off over a disagreement, and Tony has brought Peter in as a secret ally on his side. Standing on the tarmac in broad daylight, Peter's heart pounds as he hears Tony's signal. With a quip of, "All right," underoos from Tony, Spider-Man flips into action, snatching Captain America's shield in mid-air with his webbing. It's an entrance full of youthful energy and a touch of humor as Peter nervously greets the astonished heroes with a polite "Hello everyone." The battle that follows is unlike any schoolyard scrap Peter has ever experienced. He swings and flips among legendary figures. Steve Rogers, Captain America, with his super soldier strength, the swift Black Panther, and the skilled archers and warriors he's only seen on TV. Despite the high stakes, Peter can't help but chatter out of excitement and nerves. While trading blows with the Winter Soldier, he marvels, "You have a metal arm. That's awesome, dude." His genuine amazement momentarily shining through the tense fight. His innocence and enthusiasm bring a light touch to the clash of titans, even earning a surprised grin from Steve Rogers. Spider-Man does his best to impress his new mentor and teammates, At one point, he ingeniously uses his webbing in a tactic he remembers from an old movie, actually Star Wars, wrapping up a gigantic Ant-Man's legs to topple the towering figure gently onto the pavement. Amid the chaos, Peter holds his own far better than anyone expected from a kid. He even finds himself face to face with Captain America. Steve, seeing Peter's determination and good heart, gives the kid a nod of respect. In a brief pause, Cap asks which borough he's from. When Peter breathlessly replies, "Queens," Steve offers a faint, understanding smile and responds, "Brooklyn," before fate pulls them apart again. It's a small moment of camaraderie that reassures Peter that he might just belong here after all. But Peter is still new to this level of danger. In the skirmish, he gets knocked down hard by a burst of energy and rubble after trying to web together two warring Avengers. Dazed and hurt, he's pulled from the fray by Tony's concerned voice in his earpiece, urging him to fall back. Tony swoops to Peter's side, worried the young hero is injured. Realizing how dangerous the situation has become for the teenager, Tony decides Peter's part in the fight is done. With a mixture of pride and protectiveness, Tony tells him he did great, but it's time to go home. Before Peter knows it, he's being flown back to New York, the adrenaline of the battle still coursing through him. Tony thanks him and promises they'll talk soon, proud of how Peter handled himself. Back in his bedroom that night, Peter is sore and bruised, but elated. He examines a new high-tech gadget Tony slipped into his suit, a device that casts a spider-shaped signal on his ceiling. As Aunt May peeks in to check on him, Peter realizes that life as Spider-Man is never going to be the same. He lies in bed, wide awake, replaying the incredible day in his mind. Not long ago, he was just a kid doing algebra homework. Now he has fought alongside and even against Earth's mightiest heroes. Holding on to the secret of this unbelievable adventure, Peter feels a surge of hope and excitement for whatever comes next. Spider-Man: Homecoming. Back in New York after the whirlwind in Germany, Peter tries to settle into his normal life again, but nothing feels the same. Each day at Midtown High School, he can barely pay attention in class, distracted by memories of swinging alongside Iron Man and clashing with Captain America. Tony had dropped him off home after the airport battle with a simple directive to keep his feet on the ground for now and continue being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So Peter waits, phone in hand, hoping for another call or text from Tony Stark that might send him off on a new adventure. But weeks pass with silence. Tony and Happy Hogan, Tony's head of security and liaison, are busy, and Peter is left to his everyday routine, studying for tests by day and patrolling Queens by night, wearing the amazing new suit Tony gave him. The suit itself is a marvel, form-fitting and bright, with expressive eyes and an array of hidden features Peter has yet to discover. Donning it each evening, he feels closer to the hero he aspires to be. Still, Tony's words echo in his mind: to stay local, help out with small things. So Peter spends his nights thwarting bicycle thieves, stopping purse snatchers, and even helping lost old ladies cross the street. He logs each good deed like reports for an internship, sending happy updates that often go unanswered. Peter longs to prove himself with something bigger, something worthy of an Avenger, but for now he mostly encounters the everyday problems of city life. At school, Peter struggles to keep up the appearance of a regular student. He's a bit distracted and withdrawn from extracurriculars he once enjoyed. His best friend, Ned Leeds, notices something is off. Ned is a cheerful, nerdy classmate who shares Peter's love of Star Wars and Lego models. One evening, Ned accidentally discovers Peter's secret in spectacular fashion by dropping in unannounced to Peter's bedroom, only to find Peter crawling across the ceiling in his Spider-Man suit. Ned's eyes go wide with astonishment. Peter, caught literally clinging to the ceiling, can only grin sheepishly. Instead of being upset, Ned is ecstatic. He bombards Peter with questions. How far can you shoot your webs? Do you know Captain America? Before Peter calms him down, swearing Ned to secrecy, Peter finally has someone his own age to talk to about his double life. Ned eagerly becomes Peter's confidant, an unofficial partner, dreaming up ways to help. Meanwhile, trouble is brewing in the city beyond petty crime. Unbeknownst to Peter at first, a group of criminals has been stealing advanced weaponry left behind from the Avengers' past battles. Their leader is Adrian Toomes, a once honest salvage worker turned black market arms dealer. Using a powerful winged harness and high-tech gadgets, Toomes has been swooping into secure sites and making off with alien artifacts and weaponry. He and his crew craft dangerous weapons, selling them to the highest bidders in the criminal underworld. Peter only becomes aware of this when one night, during one of his routine patrols, he stumbles upon a robbery at an ATM. The thieves are wearing Avengers masks in jest, but the guns they carry fire bursts of eerie blue energy, Chitauri technology from the Battle of New York. Peter intervenes in a flash, quipping, "Guys, you're making the real Avengers look bad," as he webs their weapons. In the scuffle, one of the energy blasts explodes, blowing out the shop front of the bodega across the street, a place Peter frequents for sandwiches. Though he stops the robbers, Peter is horrified that innocent people were put in danger and that Mr. Delmar's shop was badly damaged. It's a harsh reminder that even small-scale heroics can have unintended consequences. Peter tries to report the advanced weapons to Happy and Tony, leaving messages about guys with alien guns, but he gets no response beyond a polite directive to leave it to the authorities. Frustrated and feeling ignored, Peter takes it upon himself to investigate. When he hears about a deal going down in a parking lot one night, Peter skips a school party where he had hoped to impress a senior girl, Liz Allen, whom he has a crush on, to track down the arms buyers. High above the suburban streets, on a quiet night, Peter waits and watches as Toomes' men attempt to sell weaponry to a local crook. Just as Peter intervenes, a dark figure swoops from the sky, Toomes himself, clad in a frightening vulture suit with mechanical wings that hiss and roar. The vulture snatches up a startled Spiderman into the sky. Peter has never flown before, and suddenly he's dangling over the city, the wind roaring in his ears. He struggles in the villain's iron grip until, just as abruptly, Toomes drops him. Peter plunges toward a river below, flailing until he's caught at the last second by a remote-controlled Iron Man suit. Tony, ever watchful even from afar, had sent the suit to rescue Peter from what would have been a deadly fall. Shaken and soaked, Peter is chastened when Tony's voice scolds him through the suit's speakers, gently but firmly warning him to stay out of dangerous business like this. It's clear Tony cares. He even says he's just checking in. But Peter also feels the sting of not being fully trusted to handle the big threats yet. Unwilling to give up, Peter persists in trying to track Toomes' crew. With Ned's help, he recovers a strange glowing power core left behind by one of the criminals. They devise a plan to track the criminals' van using a homemade spider tracer and discover that Toomes' gang is heading south. Coincidentally, Peter's academic decathlon team, led by Liz, is traveling to Washington, D.C. for a national competition. Urged by Ned and eager to patch things up after ditching her party, Peter rejoins the team for the trip, giving him a cover to follow the villain's trail. He sneaks the alien power core with him, not realizing it's unstable. In Washington, D.C., while Peter skips out on the competition to investigate a lead, Ned, Liz, and their teammates take a tour of the Washington Monument, carrying Ned's backpack, which holds the glowing core. As Peter discovers more about Toomes' plan, overhearing that the power core is actually an explosive bomb core set to detonate. His worst fears come true. The device in Ned's backpack triggers an explosion inside the Washington Monument elevator, with his friends trapped in an elevator car teetering high above ground, and the police and rescue too far away. It's up to Spider-Man to save them. Peter races across the city, dons his suit, and scales the towering monument, despite his own fear of heights. Panting and pushing himself, he shatters a window at the top to reach the panicked students, just as the elevator cables snap. In a dramatic moment, Peter catches the falling elevator car with his webbing and sheer strength, saving Liz and his classmates from a deadly plunge. Dangling upside down, he offers Liz his hand and gently lifts her to safety. Though helicopters circle and tourists watch in astonishment, Peter slips away once everyone is safe, not waiting for applause. Out of sight on a nearby rooftop, he heaves a sigh of relief, just grateful that his friends are alive and unharmed. Returning to New York as something of a quiet hero, his classmates gush about Spider-Man's rescue without realizing Peter was the one under the mask. Peter becomes more determined than ever to stop the Vulture. He suspects that Toomes will target a large shipment of weapons moving via the Staten Island ferry. Acting on a tip he picked up from the criminals he encountered, Peter goes to the busy ferry as Spider-Man without waiting for Tony's approval. Sure enough, he finds Toomes in the middle of an arms deal on the boat. A fierce fight erupts in the tight quarters of the ferry. Peter manages to web up several criminals and even faces Toomes directly. But during the chaos, one of Vulture's alien weapons malfunctions and slices the ferry nearly in half. All at once, cars and people begin sliding as water floods the decks. Horrified, Peter springs into action, webbing together the splitting metal like a giant wound. Straining with every muscle, he desperately tries to hold the halves of the huge ferry together, evoking the image of a tiny spider trying to mend a broken ship. For a moment it seems he might just manage it, until his webs start to snap under the immense weight. Peter feels the structure giving way and panic sets in as he cannot contain it. At that critical moment, Iron Man swoops in, accompanied by a fleet of drone thrusters, to help push the ferry back together. Relieved passengers watch as Spider-Man is joined by Iron Man to avert disaster. Peter is both grateful and crestfallen. Once the ferry is stabilized and everyone is safe, a very real, very present Tony Stark steps out of his armor in front of Peter. This is not a remote projection or a voice over the phone. Tony is here in the flesh, and he is deeply upset. On the deck of the repaired ferry, Tony confronts Peter. His voice isn't loud, but it carries disappointment and concern that hit Peter harder than any villain's punch. "What if someone had died tonight?" Tony asks quietly, his eyes searching Peter's. Peter, drenched and shaking, murmurs that he was just trying to be like Tony, to be a hero. Tony's face softens only slightly as he replies, "I wanted you to be better." Those words sink like a stone in Peter's chest. Tony continues, explaining that he took a gamble on Peter and that Peter's reckless actions could have ended in tragedy. Peter's eyes brim with tears as he realizes how badly he's messed up. He starts to apologize, admitting he thought he could handle it. When he insists, voice cracking, "I'm nothing without this suit," Tony gently but firmly counters, "If you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it." With that, Tony reaches out and takes back the gift he had given, the Spider-Man suit's high-tech armor. For Peter, it's as if the world is crashing down. He stands there in a simple t-shirt and his mask in hand, feeling more exposed than ever. Tony isn't cruel or angry for anger's sake. Peter can see genuine worry in his mentor's eyes, a fear of what could happen to this brave kid if he continues on a dangerous path, unprepared. Tony tells Peter to lay low and be just a kid for now. This is hard for both of them, but necessary. Heartbroken and ashamed, Peter returns home under May's wing, believing he's lost the trust of the one person he wanted most to impress. In the days that follow, Peter tries to return to a normal life, albeit without his suit and without the nightly escapades as Spider-Man. At first it's miserable. He feels as though he let everyone down and lost a part of himself. But gradually he begins to rediscover the things he'd set aside. He focuses on his classes again and even musters the courage to ask Liz Allen to be his date to the homecoming dance. To his delight, Liz says yes. On the night of homecoming, Aunt May helps Peter get ready, straightening his tie and offering encouraging words. It's a rare chance for Peter to just be a regular teenager, and he nervously hopes he can enjoy it. Peter arrives at Liz's house to pick her up for the dance, a shy smile on his face and a bouquet in hand. But when the door opens, Peter's blood runs cold. Standing there welcoming him inside is Adrian Toomes, Liz's father and the very man under the Vulture's mask. Peter's mind races in shock. He hadn't known anything about Liz's family Ithev, and now every coincidence snaps into place. For a moment, Peter can barely speak as he locks eyes with the man he's been fighting in secret. Toomes, on the other hand, doesn't yet realize his daughter's mild-mannered date is his masked nemesis. He cheerfully leads Peter inside, utterly changing the tone of Peter's evening. During the car ride to the school, with Liz happily chatting in the back seat, clues start to click in Toomes's mind. Peter's nervous voice, his knowledge of recent unusual events, his sudden disappearances, they're all pieces of a puzzle. At a red light, Toomes glances in the rearview mirror and asks Peter pointedly about his absence during the Washington trip and the internship he mentioned. Peter stammers through half answers. Liz mentions that Peter knows Spider-Man, which makes Toomes go silent and thoughtful. By the time they arrive at the school, an icy understanding has passed between the two men. Liz steps out of the car first. Toomes then turns to Peter, his face grave under the flashing dance lights in the distance. In a low, steely voice, he tells Peter he'll give him one chance. Forget whatever you think you know and walk away. He implies with the cold menace only a protective father and dangerous criminal can combine, that if Peter interferes with his plans or his family again, he will kill Peter and those he cares about. Peter swallows hard, nodding faintly. Inside, his heart is pounding, not out of fear for himself, but for Aunt May, for Ned, for Liz, all the people Toomes just wordlessly threatened. As Liz heads into the dance, Peter lingers in the hallway, sweat on his brow and turmoil in his heart. He has a choice to make. He could heed Toomes' warning, enjoy the dance with the girl he likes, and let the Vulture fly off into the night with whatever he's planning to steal. Or he can choose to stop him, risking everything. It only takes a few moments for Peter to decide. His sense of responsibility won't let him do nothing. He catches a final glimpse of Liz in her sparkling dress, then turns and runs. He apologizes under his breath, knowing he's about to break her heart and possibly his own, but certain that doing the right thing sometimes means giving up what you want most. Peter sprints to his locker and retrieves the old homemade Spider-Man suit he stashed there, the simple red and blue hoodie and goggles ensemble that he wore before Tony's upgrade. It's not as sleek or powerful, but it's a part of him, and he'll make do with what he has. Ned, surprised by Peter's sudden change of plans, quickly understands when Peter explains that Liz's father is the Vulture. Shocked but loyal, Ned agrees to help by staying by a school computer to track Peter's phone, which Peter slyly left in Toomes's car to act as a beacon and call the police if necessary. Peter races into the night, following the signal from his phone to an old warehouse near the docks. There, Toomes is preparing for one last heist. He plans to hijack a Stark Industries cargo plane, transporting a huge cache of powerful technology upstate, including all the Avengers' relocated gear. Peter bursts into the warehouse and confronts Toomes, trying once more to appeal to the part of him that is Liz's father. But Toomes, now donning his fearsome vulture armor, is beyond talking. A fight erupts amid the crates of weapons. With only his wits and his old suit, Peter struggles against the Vulture's powerful wings and gadgets. The older man is fierce and desperate, driven by the urge to provide for his family at any cost, and embittered by what he sees as Stark's elitism. He traps Peter under a colossal pile of concrete rubble and scrap with a powerful strike of his wing. The building shakes and then grows eerily quiet. Dust fills the air. Underneath the debris, Peter is pinned and gasping, his mask half torn, face wet with tears from pain and fear. For a terrifying moment he feels utterly helpless, just a kid again, small and alone. In that dark silence, Peter hears Tony's words in his mind. "If you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it." He also thinks of Aunt May, of the faith she has in him, and of his own inner strength that isn't bound to any suit or gadget. Summoning every ounce of courage, Peter refuses to give up. He talks to himself softly, urging the Spider-Man within to rise. With a desperate heave, he lifts the heavy concrete slab, the muscles in his arms burning, water from a broken pipe mixing with the tears on his face. Slowly, inch by inch, Peter manages to free himself from the wreckage. It's a moment of personal triumph, proving to himself that he is Spider-Man, with or without a fancy suit. Peter catches up to Toomes, just as the Vulture makes his move on the cargo plane in mid-flight. In a daring leap, Spider-Man lands onto the soaring plane as it autopilots through the night sky. Amid the deafening wind and clouds, the two engage in a climactic struggle on the plane's exterior, fighting amongst giant crates of Stark technology and the flashing hazard lights. They jostle the controls, sending the plane into a tailspin. Together, hero and villain crash-land on a deserted beach at the edge of Coney Island in a fiery tumble of metal. Peter, battered but alive, pulls himself from the wreckage. Nearby, Toomes is already limping toward the scattered cargo, eyes fixed on one particular prize, a cache of powerful arc reactors. He is single-minded in scooping up what he can, even as his wingsuit sputters with broken circuitry. Spider-Man limps after him, calling out that the fight is over, but Toomes refuses to surrender. In the flickering light of the burning plane, Peter's mask lenses narrow in concern as he notices sparking wires near the arc reactors on Toomes' back. The damaged Vulture suit is about to explode from the unstable energy it's carrying. Despite everything, Peter's first instinct is to save the man who tried to kill him. He sprints forward and yells for Toomes to stop, but it's too late. With a burst of light, the winged harness ignites. In a split-second decision, Peter throws himself at Toomes, yanking him away from the exploding payload. The blast knocks them both to the sand. When the smoke clears, Toomes is alive but unconscious, his wings destroyed. Peter, ears ringing, slowly stands. He has defeated the Vulture, not by brute force, but by refusing to let Toomes die by his own folly. As sirens wail in the distance, Spider-Man drags the limp Vulture a safe distance from the flames and leaves him secured with webbing for the authorities. Exhausted, Peter knows he needs to slip away before the police or Tony's people arrive, wanting to keep his identity under wraps. But he stays long enough to ensure that Toomes will be found and that the stolen technology is recovered. In that moment, Peter isn't thinking about victory or proving himself. He's simply relieved that no one died that night, not even his enemy. He saved the villain who threatened his loved ones because it was the right thing to do. In the aftermath, Adrian Toomes is arrested, and Peter quietly returns to his everyday life. At school, he discovers that Liz Allen, heartbroken by her father's crimes and the chaos at homecoming, is moving away to Oregon to live with her mother. Peter speaks to her one last time as she cleans out her locker. He wants to explain why he left her at the dance, but he can't reveal his secret. Liz, pert but gracious, tells Peter she hopes he finds his way and that she will be okay. Peter watches her walk away, knowing his choices have consequences, and feeling a pang of guilt and sorrow for having hurt someone he cared about, even though he knows he did what he had to do. Not long after, Peter receives a surprise invitation to the new Avengers facility upstate. Happy Hogan drives him there, and Peter assumes it's just a quiet congratulation or perhaps an apology from Tony. Instead, Peter is ushered into a room where Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, Tony's longtime love and partner, are waiting beside a sleek Mel briefcase. Tony, with a proud smile, opens the case to reveal a dazzling new Spider-Man suit, red, blue and gold, with spider-like legs folded neatly within. It's the Iron Spider suit, more advanced than anything Peter has worn. Tony then gestures toward a set of doors, and as they slide open, Peter sees a room full of reporters and a podium. Tony is offering him something incredible, a chance to officially join the Avengers, to stand with Earth's mightiest heroes as an equal. Peter's eyes widen. It's everything he thought he wanted, but now, having been through the crucible of the past months, Peter feels a tug in his heart. He thinks of Aunt May, of finishing school, of the friendly neighborhood he still wants to protect. Gently, he turns Tony down, thanking him, but explaining that he'd like to stay a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man a while longer. Tony raises an eyebrow in surprise, then nods in respect. The boy in front of him has grown in ways that aren't measured by tech or titles. "Good for you," Tony says softly, recognizing the maturity in Peter's choice. He assures Peter the offer will remain open. Peter leaves the Avengers compound, feeling lighter. Happy drives him back to Queens, teasing that Peter actually turned down Tony's big offer. Peter can't help but smile. He knows he made the right choice for himself. When he arrives home, there's one more unexpected gift waiting, the old Spider-Man suit Tony had taken, neatly mended, and left for him with a note. Peter grins wide. Being Spider-Man is part of who he is, and now he can continue being the hero on his own terms. He eagerly puts the suit back on in his bedroom, thrilled to feel its fit again. Just then, the door behind him opens. Aunt May stands there, eyes wide and mouth agape, seeing her nephew clad head to toe in the Spider-Man outfit. Peter freezes in panic as May exclaims in shock, cutting herself off with water. It seems Peter's secret isn't so secret anymore, at least not to his astonished aunt. Though that revelation is sudden and comic, it ultimately brings Peter and May closer. In time, May will come to accept and support her nephew's heroic calling. For now, however, Peter can only give a sheepish smile. His life as an ordinary kid and as Spider-Man have fully collided. And yet, as complicated as things have gotten, Peter falls asleep that night with a sense of peace. He has faced down a great threat, using only his courage and conscience, earned the respect of Tony Stark, and remained true to himself. He's still the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but he's growing up, one adventure at a time. Sometime later, in prison, Adrian Toomes encounters a scarred criminal named Gargan, who is eager for revenge on Spider-Man. Gargan has heard that Toomes might know the hero's identity. Remembering how Peter saved his life, Toomes protects the young hero's secret. He tells Gargan he doesn't know who Spider-Man is. It seems even a villain can feel gratitude. Peter's act of mercy has left a lasting impression, ensuring his identity stays safe, for now. Avengers: Infinity War. 2 years later, Peter has grown more confident in his dual life. He's still the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but he's also tasted what it's like to be an Avenger, even if unofficially. Now a high school junior, Peter's biggest worries on an ordinary day might be homework or trying to find time to help Aunt May at a charity event. But one spring morning during a field trip, Those ordinary concerns vanish. While riding the school bus through Manhattan, Peter's sharp eyes notice a giant, ring-shaped spaceship hovering menacingly above the city skyline. Instinct kicks in. He leaves his seat and urgently taps his best friend Ned. Understanding immediately, Ned causes a distraction. "Whoa, we're all gonna die," he yells dramatically, sending the other students into a brief panic, which allows Peter to slip out of the emergency exit. Outside, chaos is already brewing as the alien ship looms over downtown. Peter quickly pulls on his Spider-Man mask and swings toward the disturbance, leaving the yellow bus behind. When he arrives, he finds Tony Stark and Doctor Strange in battle with an eerie alien foe known as Ebony Maw, who wields telekinetic powers. Strange, the master of the mystic arts, is in danger. Maw has ensnared him in floating debris, attempting to take a mystical artifact from around Strange's neck, the Time Stone. Without hesitating, Peter leaps into action. Amid swirling winds and flying rubble, he calls out, "Hey, do you guys need a hand?" His light-hearted quip masks genuine concern. Tony is startled, but not unhappy to see Peter. Still, he worries aloud that the situation is far too dangerous. High above the streets, Ebony Maw retreats into his hovering spaceship with Doctor Strange as prisoner. Determined not to let the strange alien escape with his new ally, Spider-Man follows. As the ship ascends into the atmosphere, Peter clings to its side for dear life, the air thinning and the temperature dropping rapidly. He can barely breathe as they breach the clouds. Sensing Peter's peril, Tony dispatches the new Iron Spider armor, the very suit Peter had declined once before, which rockets after him and encases Peter's body just in time. The armor's systems warm him and provide oxygen, saving his life in the upper atmosphere. Tony, flying in his Iron Man armor, shouts for Peter to release and parachute back to Earth, worried for the teen's safety. In fact, the Iron Spider suit automatically deploys a parachute to tug Peter away from the ship. For a moment it seems Peter will be sent back home, but Peter, stubborn and brave as ever, isn't about to quit. He manages to disable the parachute and resolutely re-enters the alien vessel, unbeknownst to Tony. Inside the gloomy spaceship, Tony and Peter reunite, much to Tony's mix of relief and exasperation. With Doctor Strange held captive by Ebony Maw's powers, the two heroes concoct a plan. Peter, drawing from movies he loves, suggests a trick. "Have you seen that really old movie Aliens?" he asks breathlessly. Tony catches on. Working together, they blast a hole in the side of the ship, creating a vacuum that sucks Ebony Maw out into the void of space, much like a scene from that sci-fi film. The alien sorcerer is defeated, drifting lifelessly among the stars. Peter quickly webs up Doctor Strange before he too can be pulled into space, saving the astonished sorcerer's life. With Maw gone and the ship now without its pilot, Tony, Peter and Strange realize they're hurtling on a preset course, and none of them know how to fly the vessel. They soon find themselves landing, or rather crashing gently, on a distant planet with hazy orange skies. This is Thanos' world of Titan, the ruined home of the warlord behind this alien attack, and a looming threat to all life. On Titan's barren landscape, Peter is confronted by new allies turned foes, turned allies, the Guardians of the Galaxy, who initially mistake Tony, Peter and Strange for enemies. After a brief standoff, during which Peter finds himself in a strange web-slinging match with a very confused man named Star-Lord and dodging the swings of a mighty alien named Drax, they all realize they're on the same side. Both groups have a common goal, stopping Thanos. Peter finds these new cosmic companions fascinating, a group that includes an alien woman, a sarcastic raccoon-like creature, and more, but introductions are short. Thanos is on his way. As they prepare for battle, Peter steels himself. Despite the bizarre setting and enormous stakes, He cracks a tiny smile when one of the Guardians, Mantis, formally bows and calls him Master Parker. He's quick to correct her. "Oh, just Peter is fine," and even shares a moment of levity with another young man named Peter Quill, Star-Lord, about having the same name. In the calm before the storm, Tony unofficially knights Peter an Avenger with a tap on the shoulder, a gesture that fills Peter with pride and resolve. When Thanos finally arrives, the air grows tense and heavy. Thanos is imposing, taller than the Hulk, with a grim, resolute face. 6 stones of cosmic power glitter on his gauntlet. Each one he's collected grants him unimaginable abilities, but Peter and the others have a plan to stop him, by any means necessary. The battle on Titan is furious and otherworldly. Spider-Man swings and leaps around the Titan of a foe, using his agility and Iron Spider suit's extra mechanical arms to keep Thanos off balance. They fight as a team. Iron Man blasting with energy beams, Doctor Strange conjuring mystic restraints, Star-Lord firing his blasters, Drax charging head-on, and Mantis waiting for a moment to use her empathic powers. After a fierce struggle, they manage to momentarily subdue Thanos, a remarkable feat against such a powerhouse. Peter plays a crucial role. He webs Thanos' massive gloved hand, and hopping through portals that Doctor Strange opens, manages to pull the Infinity Gauntlet nearly off Thanos' arm. His face strains with effort as he yells, "I've got it! I've almost got it!" But victory is snatched away in a heartbreaking instant. Star-Lord, enraged by a personal loss that Thanos admits to causing, loses his composure and strikes Thanos while he's restrained. It breaks the team's hold on the tyrant. Thanos awakens from Mantis's trance with fury. In a split second, he regains control, grasping the gauntlet back just before Peter can remove it fully. Freed and seething, Thanos swiftly turns the tide. One by one, the heroes are overwhelmed. Peter darts in tirelessly, pulling Doctor Strange out of harm's way at one moment, then delivering a flurry of kicks to Thanos' head the next. But Thanos' strength is beyond anything Peter has ever faced. Spider-Man is swatted out of the air by a powerful backhand, caught by Tony's quick maneuvering before he can hit the ground hard. Thanos uses the gauntlet to rip a moon from the sky and hurl fragments of it at the surface. Peter, ever the do-gooder, flings web after web to catch huge chunks of debris that might crush his friends, barely managing to save them from the raining destruction. In the end, even Iron Man falls, stabbed by Thanos in a brutal confrontation. Peter watches in horror as his mentor is struck down, a cry of "Mr. Stark" escaping his lips. Helpless to stop it, he scrambles to Tony's side, but Doctor Strange, desperate to save Tony's life, bargains with Thanos, surrendering the Time Stone to the villain. Thanos, now possessing 5 of the 6 Infinity Stones, leaves the planet and vanishes through a portal bound for Earth to claim the last stone. A stunned silence falls on Titan. Peter rushes to Tony, who thankfully will survive the wound with Strange's aid. The young hero's relief is short-lived. Across the galaxy, Thanos completes his terrible mission. With all 6 stones, he snaps his fingers, unleashing a catastrophic cosmic event. In an instant, half of all life in the universe begins to simply turn to dust, victims of Thanos' bid to balance the universe. On Titan, the effects become evident as Peter looks at his hands and sees them beginning to disintegrate into ash. A jarring, sickly sensation washes over him. His spider sense reels with the understanding that something is horribly wrong inside him. Terror fills Peter's eyes. He stumbles toward Tony, fear and confusion in every step. "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good," he says, voice quavering. Tony catches Peter as he collapses. In that moment, Peter is not Spider-Man or an Avenger. He is a scared teenager clinging to the man who has been like a mentor and second father. "I'm sorry," Peter manages to whimper as his body begins to break apart into nothingness. He apologizes for everything, for failing, for any time he didn't listen, for leaving May behind. As if somehow this were his fault. Tony's arms tighten around him, unwilling to let go. Peter's words falter and he chokes back tears, whispering, "Please, I don't want to go." But the dust consumes him. In Tony's embrace, Peter dissolves into ash and is gone. For Peter, there is no pain at the end, only a cold fading and the heartbreaking sight of Tony's grief-stricken face as the world turns dark. In one of the most devastating moments of his young life, Peter's journey is abruptly cut short. The brave, hopeful Spider-Man slips into oblivion, leaving nothing but his empty iron spider armor drifting on the desolate ground of Titan. The galaxy falls into mourning as countless others vanish. Back on Earth, Aunt May is among those who will soon realize that Peter is gone. For now, on that distant planet, Tony Stark is left kneeling in the dust, holding on to the memory of a kid from Queens who just wanted to help. The light of hope seems to fade to silence. Avengers Endgame. For Peter, the oblivion of being dusted lasts only an instant. One moment, he felt everything slip away on Titan. The next, he awakens, as if from a deep slumber, gasping for air. He's back on Titan's battlefield, but things have changed. Doctor Strange stands over him, and the once ruined landscape is stirring with new life. Strange quickly explains that 5 years have passed, and that he used his mystic arts to bring Peter and all the others who were lost back into existence. Though to Peter no time has passed at all, the world has moved on without him for half a decade. There's little time to digest this shocking revelation. Strange opens a swirling portal and guides Peter through. In a flash, Peter emerges into daylight on the grounds of the Avengers' upstate New York headquarters, or what remains of it. The area is in ruins from a colossal battle already in progress. Through countless other portals, scores of heroes and allies join the fray. It's a breathtaking sight. Armies of friends, long gone now, return to stand against Thanos and his forces. Amid the chaos, Peter swings into action, soaring above a tidal wave of alien creatures. Almost immediately he hears a familiar voice yell, "Peter," and he is pulled into a fierce, relieved embrace by Tony Stark. Tony can hardly believe Peter is alive again, and Peter, unaware of how desperately Tony had grieved him, simply smiles and says, "Hi, Mr. Stark," before realizing Tony's choking up. They share a brief, heartfelt hug in the middle of the battlefield. Peter babbles that Doctor Strange told him it had been 5 years, and that they needed to help, and Tony, overcome with emotion, just claps a hand on the kid's shoulder, grateful beyond words that Peter is here now. The battle that rages is the largest Peter has ever seen, a cacophony of heroes, aliens, and magic. But despite the enormity, Peter focuses on doing what he does best, helping where he can. He thwips webs to yank Thanos' henchmen away from fallen comrades, and uses the Iron Spider suit's arms to carry injured fighters to safety. At one point, Hawkeye Clint Barton thrusts the very object everyone is fighting over, a gauntlet holding the Infinity Stones, into Peter's hands, trusting him to keep it from the enemy. Peter cradles the gauntlet and swings away, instantly becoming the target of Thanos' fiercest creatures. "Activate instant kill," he yells, and the Iron Spider suit's eyes glow red as its arms rapidly take down wave after wave of snarling alien attackers around him. Though it's a drastic measure, Peter is still careful, switching off the lethal mode the moment he's clear. He scrambles over fallen debris, desperately trying to get the gauntlet across the battlefield to safety. Eventually, He is overwhelmed by the swarm of enemies, knocked flat as the horde closes in. Just as Peter braces himself, glowing energy slices through the air above. It's Captain Marvel, arriving like a comet. She stands before Peter, radiating confidence. "Hi, I'm Peter Parker." He introduces himself breathlessly, awed by her power. She gives him a reassuring smile. "Hey, Peter Parker, you got something for me?" He realizes she's referring to the gauntlet clutched in his arms. Relieved, he hands it over, but worries aloud about how she'll make it through the mass of foes alone. In answer, several of the MCU's fiercest heroines, from Okoye to Scarlet Witch to Pepper Potts, in her own armor, rally around Captain Marvel. Peter watches in amazement as these powerful women charge forward together, carving a path through Thanos' army for the gauntlet. Free of that burden, Peter swings back into the fight to assist elsewhere, heartened by the unity and determination around him. Moments later, the sky cracks with thunder as Tony Stark executes the final, fateful move. In a blinding flash, Tony uses the Infinity Stones himself. "I am Iron Man," he declares, snapping his fingers. The effect is instantaneous. Thanos and his entire army begin to disintegrate into dust, just as they had caused others to do. Peter, who had once felt himself turn to ash, now witnesses the reverse, the enemy fading away, their weapons falling silent. Victory is won, but it comes at a tremendous cost. The power of the stone surges through Tony, and he collapses from the mortal blow it delivers. Peter's elation turns to alarm as he sees Tony fall. He rushes to his mentor's side, pushing through the thinning smoke and kneeling beside the man who meant so much to him. Tony is grievously injured. The gauntlet's energy has burned through his armor and flesh. "Mr. Stark, we won," Peter cries softly, tears streaming as he tries to smile for Tony. "We won. You did it, sir." In Peter's voice there's the innocence of the student who never stopped admiring his teacher. Tony, barely conscious, can only look at Peter with proud, glassy eyes. Peter's words tumble out between sobs. I'm sorry, Tony." In that moment he is the frightened kid again, not wanting to lose another person he loves. Pepper Potts gently moves beside Peter and puts a hand on his shoulder, quietly telling him it's okay. With great tenderness, she assures Tony they'll be all right, allowing Tony to finally rest. Peter's heart breaks as he feels Tony's hand go limp. Iron Man, who had been like a father figure to him, is gone. Peter can only bow his head and cry, saying goodbye through quiet sobs as Pepper comforts him. In the days that follow, Peter attends Tony Stark's funeral by the lake, alongside Aunt May and the many whose lives Tony touched. Peter stands somberly, watching the wreath with Tony's first arc reactor float into the water, emblazoned with the words "Proof that Tony Stark has a heart." He feels the weight of both gratitude and grief. Tony had given Peter so much: a suit, mentorship, and above all, belief in the kind of hero Peter could become. Now Peter promises himself to live up to that legacy. After the world begins to settle from the upheaval, life for Peter tries to find a new normal. Those who were dusted return to a world 5 years older. Peter walks through the doors of Midtown High once again, uncertain and a little anxious. To his immense relief, he spots Ned in the hallway. Ned, who was also snapped away and thus still the same age, meets Peter's eyes with disbelief, then joy. The two friends rush to each other and hug tightly, tears of happiness in their eyes, oblivious to the bustle of students around them. Despite everything that's changed, some things, like their friendship, are wonderfully the same. Peter realizes that although he's faced galaxies and lost dear mentors, he still has a part of his old life to hold on to. As he looks around at familiar lockers and classrooms, Peter feels a bittersweet mix of sorrow and hope. He has survived the unimaginable mourned losses and returned to a world that needs him just as much as it did before. And though Tony is gone, Peter carries his mentor's lessons in his heart. Surrounded by classmates, many of whom also vanished and returned, Peter breathes in deeply. The adventure isn't over. A new chapter is about to begin, and he intends to honor the sacrifices made by living fully as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Spider-Man: Far From Home. In the wake of Tony Stark's sacrifice, the world tries to return to normal, or a new version of it. Those who vanished in the blip, as people now call the 5-year disappearance, have reappeared, not having aged a day, including Peter and most of his friends. Midtown High even produces a tribute video to the fallen Avengers, with pictures of Iron Man, Black Widow, and others set to a slightly scratchy Whitney Houston ballad on the school news. It's both touching and a little awkward, but Peter feels his throat tighten seeing Tony's face honored among the heroes. Summer is approaching, and with it comes a school-sponsored trip to Europe, something Peter hopes will be a chance to relax and just be a teenager for a while. He's still grieving Tony in his own quiet way, and grappling with people constantly asking if he will be the next Iron Man. All Peter wants now is a brief escape from the pressures of being Spider-Man and an opportunity to tell MJ, Michelle Jones, how he feels about her. MJ, a sharp and wry classmate, has slowly become special to Peter with her dry humor and kind heart. Peter meticulously plans to confess his crush atop the Eiffel Tower in Paris, complete with a gift, a necklace of black dahlia flowers, her favorite, morbidly because they represent a famous unsolved crime, such as MJ's quirky taste. To truly take a break, Peter decides not to pack his Spider-Man suit at all. Europe doesn't really need a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, he jokingly assures Aunt May Parker, who fully supports Peter's hero life now, slyly slips the suit into his luggage anyway, just in case. She knows Peter's sense of responsibility too well. With a hopeful heart, Peter departs for his trip alongside Ned, MJ and their classmates, leaving New York and its high-flying heroics behind for what he hopes will be a simple teenage adventure. The trip's first stop is Venice, Italy. Peter and his friends wander the picturesque canals, and for a short while, Peter manages to just be a tourist, eating gelato, sharing shy glances with MJ, and taking photos. But the respite is short-lived. Out of nowhere, a massive creature made of water rises from the Grand Canal, causing panic and destruction. Tourists scream and boats capsize as this so-called water elemental thrashes about. Peter, suitless, still jumps into action as best he can, helping a fallen child onto a ledge and pulling people away from crumbling bridges. He has no weapons or suit, just his instincts and courage. But another savior emerges, a man in a flowing cape and fishbowl-like helmet, firing green energy blasts from his hands. With surprising power, this mysterious figure battles the water elemental head-on. Peter watches in amazement as the stranger flies and fights, eventually causing the creature to collapse into ordinary water with a final sizzling burst. The danger passes. That evening, in the hotel where the class is staying, Peter's unexpected heroics in Venice, limited though they were, attract attention. None other than Nick Fury, the infamous former S.H.I.E.L.D. director, slips into Peter's room, much to Peter's shock and to the comedic misfortune of Ned, whom Fury tranquilizes to ensure privacy. Fury is as no-nonsense as ever. He introduces Peter to the caped hero from earlier, Quentin Beck, who claims to be from an alternate Earth. Beck explains that the creature they fought was one of the elementals, primordial monsters that ravaged his home dimension and killed his family. Now these elementals have somehow come to this world, and Beck, quickly nicknamed by locals as Mysterio, is determined to stop them so no one else suffers his fate. Peter, still a bit overwhelmed that his attempt at a vacation has turned into an international superhero briefing, listens with sympathy. Beck seems experienced, noble and kind, almost a fusion of the qualities Peter admired in Tony and in the other Avengers. Seeing an adult hero who is willing to shoulder the responsibility, Peter is more than happy to let Beck take the lead in this fight. Fury, however, has other plans. He hands Peter a parting gift that Tony Stark had left for him, a pair of high-tech glasses. They belonged to Tony and are equipped with an AI interface named EDIT, granting access to Stark Industries' powerful defense network, including a vast arsenal of weaponized drones. Tony intended for Peter to have this, symbolically passing on a piece of his legacy. The weight of that gesture isn't lost on Peter, and it makes him miss Tony all the more. But Fury's immediate expectation is that Peter will help Beck in stopping the remaining elementals. Despite Peter's protests that he's just a friendly neighborhood guy and not equipped for giant monsters, Fury rather forcefully rewrote the school trip itinerary so Peter can be on site for the next anticipated attack. Thus, instead of going to Paris, where Peter hoped to confess to MJ, the class unexpectedly receives tickets to Prague under the guise of a generous upgrade to their travel plans. In Prague, during a vibrant nighttime carnival, the fire elemental appears, a towering creature of flame that feeds on metal and mayhem. Fury has equipped Peter with a stealth suit, a black covert outfit, so he can fight without being recognized by his friends. Beck and Peter coordinate to confront the fiery giant amid Ferris wheels and fireworks. The battle is intense. Flaming debris rains down on revelers, and Peter scrambles to divert it with well-placed webs, all while staying out of sight. Beck engages the monster directly, using impressive energy blasts and illusory duplicates of himself to confuse it. Working together, they manage to extinguish the elemental in a spectacular display, with Beck delivering what appears to be the final fatal blow at great personal risk. When the embers cool, the carnival lies in charred disarray, but Prague is saved. Peter is awed by Beck's prowess and thankful that no one, including his classmates, was seriously hurt in the chaos. Later that night, Fury and his assistant Maria Hill congratulate Beck on his victory in a quiet debriefing. Beck humbly credits Peter's help, while Peter feels more out of place than ever in this world of seasoned adult heroes. Sensing Peter's discomfort and lingering desire for normalcy, Beck takes on a mentorly air. He and Peter share a drink for Peter, just a lemonade in a cozy Prague pub after hours. The atmosphere is warm, old wood paneling, soft music and a sense of camaraderie. Beck, in civilian clothes now, thanks Peter sincerely for his help and praises his big heart and courage. He also sympathizes with Peter's predicament, having great power thrust on young shoulders. Peter blushes at the compliments. In Beck, he sees a potential older brother figure, someone who might fill a bit of the void. Tony left, feeling both the weight of EDIT in his pocket and the desire to just be a normal kid. Peter makes a fateful decision, believing that Tony might have intended for EDIT to go to the best possible hero for the job. And convinced that hero is Quentin Beck, Peter decides to gift the AI glasses to Beck. "You're probably more worthy of this than me," Peter insists, sliding the glasses over to a surprised Beck. Beck tries them on and, after a moment of seeming reluctance, smiles appreciatively at Peter. It's what Beck appears to have deserved all along for his brave efforts. Tony Stark's trust. The two share a nod of understanding. Peter leaves the pub that night feeling a strange mix of relief and melancholy. Relieved to no longer carry a burden he felt unprepared for, yet wistful as he walks away from what he imagines Tony would say, handing over the keys to the kingdom. But he tells himself it's okay. Now he can focus on enjoying the rest of the trip and finally having that heart-to-heart with MJ. Peter's hope for a peaceful holiday is shattered the very next day. In truth, Quentin Beck is not the selfless hero he claimed to be at all. As soon as Peter is out of earshot, Beck's friendly grin fades into triumph. The cozy pub transforms, literally, as its illusion projectors deactivate, revealing a set of advanced holographic emitters and a team of technicians hidden in the shadows. The entire scenario, the elementals, Beck's powers, even the bar itself, has been an elaborate fabrication. Beck is, in fact, the mastermind of a grand deception. A former Stark Industries scientist with an axe to grind against Tony, he had invented hologram technology and felt underappreciated and slighted. Now he's repurposed Stark tech, along with the drones Peter unknowingly handed him via ED, to stage fake crises and play the hero. Surrounded by ex-Stark employees helping him, Beck congratulates them and himself on how perfectly they fooled Peter. His plan is almost complete. Using the weaponized drones and projectors, he will simulate the deadliest elemental yet in London and swoop in to save the day, solidifying himself as a great hero in the eyes of the world. Mysterio would get the glory he craves, and no one would ever know it was built on lies. Blissfully unaware of this betrayal, Peter travels to Berlin thinking he will brief authorities and then meet his friends for the rest of the tour. He's surprised when Nick Fury intercepts him and pulls him into a stern debriefing about the Prague incident and what comes next. During this tense conversation at what Peter believes is a European SHIELD office, Fury presses him about who else knows about Beck's true identity or the elementals. Peter, confused by Fury's sudden intensity and line of questioning, admits that only MJ and Ned might suspect something he had confided partly in them earlier. Suddenly, Fury and the entire environment around Peter morph and dissolve. It was all an illusion crafted by Beck. The real trap has sprung. Mysterio needed to know who has evidence of his fraud, and now he does. Peter finds himself in the middle of a surreal nightmare. The Berlin office setting melts away into a cavernous, dark warehouse. Mysterio's laughter echoes as multiple projections of him appear. Peter fights to escape, but he's enveloped in an onslaught of illusions meant to break his spirit. He sees haunting images, a giant, lifeless Iron Man crawling out of a grave towards him, symbolizing Peter's guilt over Tony's death, mirror-like reflections that multiply Spider-Man into infinity, making it impossible to find the real Beck, even a false vision of MJ in peril that throws Peter off balance. Every time Peter swings his fists or shoots a web, he hits nothing or falls into another trap of light. Beck taunts him all the while, calling him just a scared kid, telling him he'll never be Iron Man and that he shouldn't have meddled. Peter's resolve wavers under this psychological assault. He's injured too. During one desperate lunge, he smashes into what he thinks is Beck's silhouette, but it's actually a concrete pillar, bruising himself badly. Finally, a figure of Nick Fury appears and shockingly shoots Mysterio, making the illusion cease. Or so it seems. Fury demands Peter tell him who else knows about Beck. Reeling, Peter gasps out, "MJ and Ned, and maybe my friend Betty," thinking he's finally found the real Fury amidst the nightmare. But it's another cruel trick. The Fury figure flickers and becomes Beck once more. Now Mysterio has exactly the information he wanted. With a malicious smile, he orchestrates one last accident for Peter. Before Peter can react, a speeding train comes hurtling through the illusion. Peter turns just in time for the train to strike him full on. In a blur of pain and noise, he's flung onto the front of the train and then rolls, unconscious, into an empty carriage. The train roars away into the night, bearing Peter far from Beck, who is satisfied that he has eliminated the one person who could have exposed him. Peter awakens sometime later in a daze, battered and aching, in the small village of Brokorp Langdijk in the Netherlands. It's a peaceful place, windmills, kindly locals, and tulips. The gentle absurdity of waking up in a Dutch holding cell. The locals found him on the train and kindly got him medical help, thinking he was just a drunken tourist in a strange costume, is not lost on Peter. Despite his injuries, the people he meets are unexpectedly kind, even offering him a cell phone to make a call. Peter contacts Happy Hogan, who has been frantically searching for him. When Happy arrives in a Stark Industries jet, Peter, still shaken, finally lets out everything he's been feeling. He admits how badly he messed up by trusting Beck, how the pressure of filling Tony's shoes has been terrifying him, and how he feels he keeps failing when it matters most. As he talks, tears slip down his face. Happy listens with the patience and care of a concerned uncle. He reassures Peter that Tony wouldn't have given him EDIT or seen him as a successor if Tony didn't know unequivocally that Peter was capable and good. Tony second-guessed everything he did, Happy says gently, but the one thing he knew for sure was that you're going to be the next Iron Man, or rather your own Spider-Man, and that's okay. He reminds Peter that even though Tony is gone, Peter is not alone. He has people who believe in him. In that moment, Peter realizes that being himself, with his own ideals and heart, is exactly what Tony and May and his friends value. Gathering his courage once more, Peter understands that he has to stop Beck, not just to get EDIT back, but to prevent any harm Beck's illusions might cause. With Happy's help, he begins to craft a new suit using the advanced technology aboard the Stark jet. It's almost a therapeutic exercise as he designs web shooter upgrades and selects the fabric colors, opting for a bold red and black scheme this time. Peter's movements become confident and even joyful. He slips on headphones and grins when Happy, with a knowing smile, plays one of Tony's favorite rock songs for him. It's a moment of connection across time. Tony used to tinker with his suits to this very song. Happy watches Peter work with a proud tear in his eye. In Peter's determined gaze and quick engineering skills, he sees echoes of Tony, but also something new and uniquely Peter. By the time the jet nears London, Spider-Man has a revitalized spirit and a new high-tech suit to match. London is where Beck has decided to stage his grand finale, combining all the elementals into one giant illusion. He orchestrates a catastrophic attack on Tower Bridge, intending to make it look like an Avengers-level threat that only Mysterio can stop. Tourists and locals flee as a swirling tempest of water, fire, earth, and air, a creature of monstrous proportions, engulfs the landmark. In reality, it's hundreds of weaponized drones projecting visuals and causing real damage with their weapons. Beck, wearing his full Mysterio regalia, soars above, playing the role of valiant savior for any cameras that might be recording. But just as Beck is about to vanquish this foe in view of the world, Spider-Man arrives. Peter dives straight through the colossal elemental illusion, plunging into the swarm of cloaked drones at its core. His sudden appearance surprises Beck. Spider-Man is alive after all. Inside the whirlwind of fake elemental chaos, Peter endures a gauntlet of attacks. The drones fire plasma bolts and chase him through the air. Spider-Man gracefully contorts and twists, destroying drones one by one with electric webbing and sheer agility. Still, it's a daunting task. The sky is thick with machines, and Peter takes glancing hits that singe his suit and skin. On the bridge below, his classmates MJ, Ned, and Betty, who have unwittingly gotten close to the action during their tour, are now in harm's way. They take refuge in the wreckage of the Tower Bridge control room as debris and drones rain down. Happy Hogan, who followed Peter to London, finds them and shields them as best he can, at one point throwing a medieval halberd from a Tower of London display to knock out a drone and using his own body as cover. Despite the danger, MJ has managed to hang on to a vital piece of evidence, one of Beck's projectors that she and Peter picked up in Prague which shows doctored footage linking Beck to the elementals. She now truly understands Peter's life-or-death struggle. Above, within the simulated storm, Spider-Man's determination peaks. He recalls the words of encouragement from Happy and the lessons from Tony and May. This time, when Beck tries to blind him with illusions, Peter closes his eyes and trusts his Peter tingle, that precognitive spider sense May playfully named. In a remarkable display of faith in his own instincts, Peter flips and vaults through invisible obstacles, dodging drone fire he can't yet see but senses coming. One by one, he disables the last of the drones until the gigantic elemental illusion flickers and finally shatters into nothing. The sky clears to reveal Mysterio, hovering in disbelief that his grand spectacle is falling apart. Peter lands on the bridge near Beck. The only thing standing between them now is a series of Stark drones forming a protective barrier around Mysterio. Beck, desperate, commands all remaining drones to open fire. In a sequence of pure reflex and spider sense, Peter leaps and runs through the hail of bullets and lasers in acrobatic fashion, narrowly avoiding each lethal shot in a way that looks almost miraculous. He takes out the drones one after another in close combat until none remain to shield Beck. Finally, Peter confronts Beck directly inside the projection hub on the bridge. Face to face, Beck attempts one last ruse. As Spider-Man moves toward him, Beck creates a final illusion, a fake surrender. The Beck before Peter seems remorseful, dropping to his knees, saying perhaps that he's sorry or that he gives up. Sensing something is off, Peter doesn't drop his guard. In a split second, his intuition screams danger from behind. He spins around and indeed, a rogue drone, cloaked in invisibility, is aiming a weapon at the back of Peter's head, controlled by the real Beck, who is actually standing off to the side. Peter reacts in the blink of an eye, deflecting the drone's shot with his gauntlet just as it fires. The redirected blast hits Beck. Stunned, Beck collapses as the last drone, now visible, clatters to the ground. Peter rushes to Beck's side and uses EDIT, which he regains control of, to call off any remaining drones. The bridge grows quiet except for the crackle of fires. Quentin Beck lies on the ground, breathing shallowly. The illusions have all dissolved, revealing the truth of the destruction and Beck's involvement to any onlookers or cameras. Beck looks up at Peter and with a faint, rueful grin, tells him that people will believe anything, a final admission of his philosophy. There is perhaps a hint of respect as well, as Beck, despite all his scheming, witnesses the bravery and moral fortitude of the young hero who thwarted him. With a last breath, Beck closes his eyes. Peter, exhausted and heart-heavy, gently takes the EDIT glasses from Beck's hand, understanding that Mysterio's threat has ended, but also saddened that a brilliant man chose this twisted path. In the aftermath of the battle, London authorities arrive, and Spider-Man slips away to avoid awkward questions. He reunites with MJ, Ned, and their friends who are shaken but unharmed, thanks in part to Happy's protection. On a quieter part of the bridge, as emergency crews work nearby, Peter finds MJ. They share a look of mutual relief and amazement. In that moment, all of Peter's worries about how to express his feelings seem to melt away. He apologizes to MJ for the chaos, but she surprises him by shyly admitting she's glad he's okay because she really cares about him. Peter, flush with relief and happiness, finally confesses that he likes her a lot, and has for a while. MJ, who usually wears a sardonic expression, actually smiles warmly. It's small and a bit awkward. They're teenagers, after all, but genuine. They both lean in and share a gentle, sweet kiss amidst the rubble of the day's events. It's a tender moment of normalcy and young love, blossoming even after so much turmoil. Back in New York a few days later, life seems to return to a semblance of normal. Peter is thrilled to be with MJ as his girlfriend now. He even takes her for her first web-slinging ride through the city. At dusk, Spider-Man swings with MJ cradled in his arms, darting between skyscrapers. MJ, who is brave in her own way, can't help but shriek at the swaying heights, clutching Peter tightly, then laugh at how crazy it all is. He gently sets her down in the heart of Manhattan. They're both giddy from the experience. MJ playfully punches his arm and says, "Never doing that again." Maybe. Peter chuckles. For once, things seem to be going right. He saved the day, his identity is still secret to most, and he's with the girl he likes. However, that sense of peace is short-lived. Just as Peter and MJ prepare to part ways after their date, giant electronic billboards around the city suddenly display a breaking news alert. To Peter's astonishment and growing horror, a video begins to play featuring Quentin Beck, apparently recorded during the London incident. In it, a frantic Beck frames Spider-Man as the villain, claiming that Spider-Man attacked him and unleashed the drones on London. Beck's voice, full of feigned fear, rings out, "Spider-Man did this. He's a menace to society." Peter's heart pounds. He can't believe what he's hearing. Then comes the final blow. The video cuts to Beck, looking straight into the camera, announcing Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker. On the screen flashes a photo of Peter himself. MJ gasps, and people in the street stop to stare at Peter, recognizing his face from the broadcast. High above Times Square, the larger-than-life visage of Jonah Jameson, the bombastic editor of the Daily Bugle, appears, railing about how they finally have proof of the web-slinger's identity. The world seems to spin around Peter. In an instant, his closely guarded secret, the boundary between his hero life and his personal life, is shattered. On the sidewalk, MJ grabs Peter's hand as onlookers begin to murmur and point. Peter's mind races with panic. This was the one thing he never wanted to happen, the one thing Tony and May always cautioned against. If the world knew who he was, would his loved ones be safe? All those fears rush in at once. He has no witty quip, no plan, just raw shock. "What the?" he exclaims in disbelief, a final startled exclamation cut off by the noise of the city around them. Spider-Man's identity is out, and Peter Parker's life will never be the same. Spider-Man: No Way Home. The world knows Peter Parker's name, and nothing will ever be the same. In the immediate aftermath of Mysterio's broadcast, Peter and MJ stand in the heart of Times Square, surrounded by gasping onlookers and glaring camera phones. Panic surges through Peter. He grabs MJ's hand and leaps into action as Spider-Man, fleeing the gathering mob. He swings them away through the concrete canyons of Manhattan, his mind racing with fear over what this revelation means for his family and friends. By the time Peter returns MJ safely to the ground at the rooftop of their high school, they are both breathless and shaken. Ned finds them there, having seen the news, and the trio huddles together, trying to process a reality where Peter has no secret identity left. Within hours, Peter's life turns into a storm. News vans encircle his apartment building. Some people cheer Spider-Man as a hero unjustly framed. Others shout that he's a murderer. Helicopters thrum overhead. Peter, May, and Happy are hounded by questions and even law enforcement inquiries, spurred by Mysterio's accusations. They face legal trouble for the damage in London and the drones. Fortunately, a skilled Zeal, blind, but with astonishing abilities, steps in to help clear Peter's name. He even casually catches a brick tossed through the apartment window, hinting that Peter isn't the only vigilante in town. Though Peter avoids criminal charges, the court of public opinion remains split. Half of New York seems to think he's dangerous, and the other half idolizes him to an uncomfortable degree. Trying to resume any normal activity becomes impossible. Even walking to class is a gauntlet of protesters and press. The fallout extends to those he loves most. MJ and Ned, innocents in all this, are bombarded by their association with Peter. Colleges Peter, MJ and Ned dreamed of attending begin rejecting their applications, unwilling to invite the controversy that now follows Peter. When the trio all receive denial letters from MIT, despite their excellent qualifications, it's a crushing blow. Watching MJ and Ned pretend it's no big deal when he knows it's because of him is more than Peter can bear. He feels a deep guilt, seeing how his hero life has poisoned his friends' futures. Desperate to set things right, Peter seeks out Doctor Strange for help. The former Sorcerer Supreme still resides in the Sanctum Sanctorum on Bleecker Street, where Peter arrives on a blustery day to find snow inexplicably drifting through the Grand Hall. A mishap with a portal and a blizzard, it turns out. After some hesitation, Peter explains his predicament. He asks Strange if there's any spell to make the world forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It's an extreme measure, but in Peter's mind it might be the only way to give his friends their lives back. Strange, a bit wary but sympathetic to Peter's plight, agrees to attempt a dangerous ritual, despite a warning from his ally Wong. In the Sanctum's undercroft, Strange begins weaving a complex spell. A golden glyph spins in the air as he chants incantations. But as the magic builds, Peter suddenly realizes the consequences. Everyone will forget. Aunt May, Ned, MJ. They won't know him. Alarmed, he interrupts Strange repeatedly. Can exceptions be made? First he asks to let MJ remember, then Ned, then May, even Happy. Each change makes Strange's brow furrow. As the spell falters, the controlled glow of the enchantment becomes erratic. Finally, when Peter even mentions that maybe at least some of the Avengers should recall Spider-Man, it's too much. Strange loses control of the now unstable spell. With a burst of energy, he contains it hastily in a crackling orb, stopping the magic from fully unleashing. But something is clearly wrong. The fabric of reality was briefly strained, and Strange scolds Peter for tampering with forces he barely understands. Dejected and apologetic, Peter leaves, feeling he's only made things worse. Strange's parting words weigh on him. The spell was corrupted. If they come through, and they will, it's because of you. Peter isn't entirely sure what that means, but he fears he's just caused yet another disaster. Not knowing what else to do, Peter focuses on a more ordinary solution, pleading his case to MIT in person. He learns that an MIT admissions administrator is flying out of New York that very day, so he swings off to catch her before she departs. He finds her caught in typical Queens traffic on the Alexander Hamilton Bridge. Approaching her car in his nicest shirt and tie over the Spider-Man suit, Peter humbly begs for his friends to get a second chance at admission, explaining how they were unfairly impacted by the controversy around him. Before the administrator can respond, a sudden rumble shakes the bridge. Out of nowhere, mechanical tentacles tear through the concrete. To Peter's astonishment, a hulking man in a long coat and goggles appears. Dr. Otto Octavius, a scientist from another universe, roaring Peter's name, but he's not referring to the Peter he sees. "Hello, Peter," he growls with menacing familiarity. Peter has never met this man, yet the stranger clearly recognizes Spider-Man. Just not this Spider-Man. A fierce battle erupts atop the bridge. Doc Ock's four metallic arms move with frightening speed, snatching cars and smashing pillars. Peter leaps into action to protect the trapped commuters. At first, Octavius has the upper hand. One iron limb pins Peter against a concrete slab, and another rips off a chunk of Peter's iron spider suit, absorbing its nanotech. But the suit's advanced tech works to Peter's advantage, spreading onto the metal arms and allowing Peter to interface with Oc's mechanical harness. He seizes control of the tentacle's movement, effectively neutralizing the threat. "You're not Peter Parker," Octavius realizes in confusion as he finally gets a good look at this masked boy's face when Peter lifts his helmet briefly to show he isn't the Peter Oc knows. Before they can talk further, another menace swoops in, the Green Goblin, cackling on his glider, tossing a pumpkin bomb that explodes near them. In the chaos, just as Goblin's deranged visage becomes clear to Peter, Doctor Strange intervenes. A portal opens and whisks Peter and the captured Doc Ock away, leaving Goblin behind for the moment. Peter finds himself back in the dungeon-like undercroft of the Sanctum. Strange has already managed to contain another visitor, the slithering reptilian lizard from another reality, who snaps and growls from behind a magical barrier. Strange hurriedly explains that the corrupted spell has started pulling in people from other universes who know Spider-Man's identity. It's up to them to round up these accidental arrivals. He entrusts Peter with a special arcane device, a wrist-mounted magical web shooter called the Sanctum Seeker that can teleport anyone it zaps straight into a holding cell. With a quick lesson and a stern reminder of the stakes, Strange sends Peter along with MJ and Ned working as support via phone to capture the remaining visitors. It isn't long before two more superpowered strangers surface. Following strange electrical disturbances, Peter finds Max Dillon crackling with yellow electricity, siphoning power from a rural substation. This man, known as Electro in his world, immediately fires bolts at Peter, terrified and disoriented by the change of universe. Amid the dangerous light show, an unexpected ally assists. A huge, sentient figure made of sand sweeps in, temporarily restraining Electro. It's Flint Marko, aka Sandman, who actually recognizes the name Peter, but not the face. To him, Spider-Man is a friend. Together, Spider-Man and Sandman manage to subdue Electro's overcharge, and Peter uses Strange's device to teleport both Max and Flint into confinement. Back at the Sanctum's improvised prison, a bewildered Electro and a wary Sandman join Doc Ock and Lizard in the lineup of captured villains. All of them are from different worlds, some even from different timelines, and each recalls fighting a Spider-Man, only to be suddenly yanked into this dimension at the moment of their defeat. The last arrival is the most complicated, Norman Osborn, who in his fractured mind oscillates between a kindly scientist and the malevolent Green Goblin. Norman, confused and lost, actually finds Aunt May at the FEAST Community Center. When Peter arrives, May gently tells him that this man needs help. Norman, in a moment of clarity, is meek and broken, having been haunted by his darker alter ego. Peter brings Norman to the Sanctum as well, where the full truth comes out. Each of these people was fated to die fighting their version of Spider-Man. Strange confirms this grim destiny and prepares a spell to send them all back to their universes to meet their fate, believing it's not their responsibility to interfere with the multiverse's course. But Peter's core of compassion rebels at this idea. These aren't just monsters or enemies, they're people, flawed, tragic people who in some cases were friends of a Peter Parker once. He can't stand the thought of condemning them to death if there's a chance to save them. Aunt May's voice in his heart urges him to do what's right, even when it's hard. Against Strange's warnings, Peter decides he will not send them back to die. Instead, he wants to cure them, to fix what's twisted their lives, hoping that might change their fates. Strange and Peter clash over this moral dilemma. It escalates into a mirror dimension duel, a dazzling physics-defying fight where city streets fold like paper and mirror images of trains nearly collide. Peter, using his scientific smarts, manages to trap Strange by snatching the sorcerer's sling ring and leaving him suspended in the mirror dimension, at least long enough for Peter to enact his plan. Now holding the fate of 5 villains in his young hands, Peter moves them to Happy Hogan's apartment, where Stark tech and 3D printers can perhaps fabricate the cures they need. It's an odd tableau, villains and hero under one roof, a tentative ceasefire in place, all working toward a common goal under Peter's guidance. Otto Octavius is the first success. Peter builds a new inhibitor chip for Oc's neural harness and carefully installs it. With a spark and a shudder, Otto's eyes clear as the AI voices in his head fall silent for the first time in years. "It's so quiet," he whispers, tearfully grateful as his mind becomes his own again. The others watch this transformation with a mix of hope and skepticism. Next, Peter synthesizes a serum he believes will cure Norman Osborn's goblin persona. Norman assists with shaky hands, seemingly eager to be free of his curse. As Peter works, Aunt May stays close, offering gentle encouragement to the troubled men around her, reinforcing Peter's belief that curing these people is the right path. But just when it seems they might actually save everyone, the Goblin's malevolent persona seizes control of Norman again. Sensing the impending loss of his dark power, the Goblin secretly convinces Max Dillon, Electro, that Peter's cure will only weaken them, and that they shouldn't have to lose their newfound abilities. The atmosphere in the apartment shifts to hostility. Peter's spider sense tingles wildly, a split-second warning of danger. Goblin's sly grin creeps across Norman's face, and suddenly all hell breaks loose. Electro rips away the power source arc reactor he's been eyeing, one of Tony's devices, and attaches it to himself, supercharging his abilities. In a surge of electricity, he blasts out of the building, refusing to be cured. Sandman, frightened and uncertain, turns into a billowing cloud of sand and escapes through a vent, deciding he wants no part of this. The Lizard, who had been waiting outside in the van, senses the betrayal and attacks through the window. Goblin, cackling, hurls one of his explosive pumpkin bombs. Peter's frantic webbing catches it, but the bomb detonates, engulfing the floor in fire. The explosion is devastating. Amid the chaos, Goblin and Spider-Man engage in a brutal fight. This is no graceful duel of Avengers, it's raw and fierce. Goblin's enhanced strength and madness make him a formidable match. They crash through floors. Peter punches Goblin again and again, but the villain only laughs, feeding off the destruction and Peter's rage. Aunt May, having grabbed the case with the remaining cures, runs toward the fray, just as Spider-Man is slammed by Goblin's glider. With a vicious final strike, Goblin summons his glider to ram through the lobby, knocking Peter hard and hitting May. Peter barely has time to register the horror of that blow before Goblin, sneering with triumph, summons another bomb. He lobs it at May and Peter. It explodes in front of May as Goblin zooms off into the night, leaving Peter in the smoking ruins. At first, Peter thinks maybe they both miraculously survived the blast intact. May even gets up, staggering, insisting she's just out of breath. She still holds the cure for Goblin that Peter made, and despite her trembling, she looks at Peter with pride. She tells him he did the right thing trying to help these people, that with great power there must also come great responsibility, even if the cost is high. Peter's eyes well up, hearing May articulate that fundamental truth solidifies everything he believes, until he notices the spreading red stain on her side. May's injuries are far worse than she admitted. She collapses and Peter catches her, begging her to stay with him. Sirens wail outside as emergency responders arrive, but it's too late. May, the only family Peter had left, dies in his arms. Peter is shattered. He can do nothing but sob and repeat, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," rocking over her still form as rain begins to patter down and authorities surround him. At that moment, Peter has never felt more alone. Meanwhile, Ned and MJ, who had been waiting anxiously at Ned's grandmother's house with the spell box, the machina di cadavers that could send the villains back, fear the worst after losing contact with Peter. Ned absent-mindedly wishes he could see Peter, and to his astonishment, sparks fly from his hand. It seems during the scuffle at the sanctum, Ned picked up Doctor Strange's sling ring, and he might have some latent magic in him. He and MJ try to use the ring to find Peter, opening a portal into a dark alley. A figure in a Spider-Man suit steps through. But it's not their Peter. This Spider-Man pulls off his mask to reveal a friendly, somewhat older face. It's one of the alternate Peter Parkers, pulled in earlier when Strange's spell went awry. This one portrayed by Andrew Garfield, a Spider-Man from another universe. After the initial surprise and some web-slinging proof that he is who he says, they realize the spell must have drawn him in too. They try again, find Peter Parker, and another portal opens. Through it steps a second Spider-Man, older and wiser looking. Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker from yet another universe. Both alternate Spider-Man have felt the same strange cosmic tug of someone in need, and they're eager to help. MJ and Ned, astonished but hopeful, bring these two Peters to find their Peter. They discover him on the rooftop of his high school, the same place he, MJ and Ned, found solace just after Mysterio's revelation. Now though, Peter stands drenched by rain and tears, utterly devastated. MJ and Ned wordlessly embrace him, letting him know they're there. When Peter lifts his eyes, he sees two familiar yet unfamiliar figures approaching gently. It takes him a moment to understand. These are the other Spider-Men, the ones Strange mentioned might have slipped through. Despite the bizarre introduction, there's an immediate, profound kinship. The three Peters retreat to the school's science lab, seeking privacy and a place to talk. Here the dam breaks. MCU Peter, raw with grief and guilt, confesses he's never felt this kind of pain. May is gone, and it's his fault for trying to do what was right. He's furious with the Goblin, and more than that, he's furious with himself. At his lowest moment, he even says maybe May's idealistic last words don't make sense anymore, given the cost. The other two Parkers listen with empathy and then begin to share their own stories. Tobey's Peter speaks softly about his beloved Uncle Ben, whose death at the hands of a robber drove him nearly mad with guilt. When he was younger, he too felt responsible because he could have intervened and didn't. In his world, Uncle Ben was the one who told him the fateful lesson about power and responsibility. It took time, but living by those words has guided him since, even when it was hard. Andrew's Peter adds his own heavy burden. He lost his first love, Gwen, during a battle because he wasn't able to save her in time. That tragedy plunged him into darkness and anger. For a long while he stopped pulling his punches and grew bitter. Both of them gently cautioned that letting vengeance consume him will only hurt Peter more. It won't honor May's sacrifice, it would betray it. May believed in helping villains because she saw their humanity. They urge Peter to hold on to that. Slowly, our Peter realizes he isn't alone in his grief. These two strangers understand exactly what he's feeling. They are him. The three Peters decide to work together on what May wanted to cure the remaining villains and fix what they can. It's a cathartic, even fun collaboration among brilliant young scientists. Three Peter Parkers in a lab, comparing notes and building antidotes. Ned and MJ assist. Ned is delighted to be the man in the chair, coordinating them. Amidst the flurry of concocting cures, they share some lighter moments, that ease Peter's heavy heart. They marvel at Toby's organic web shooting. Andrew's Peter can't hide his grossed-out fascination. They encourage each other with stories of fighting aliens. Peter mentions Thanos. The others mention their own weird foes. For the first time in days, Peter cracks a genuine smile as they bond over the unique absurdities of the Spider-Man life. In these moments, Peter feels May's spirit with him. This is what she meant, finding family and purpose even through tragedy. By nightfall, they have developed cures for each of the afflicted villains, a new serum to restore Electro's human electrical balance, an anti-serum for Lizard, a device to re-stabilize Sandman, and the already-made antidote for Goblin that May died protecting. They lure the villains to the Statue of Liberty, now under construction, to add Captain America's shield to Lady Liberty's arm by broadcasting a message that Spider-Man is there with the spell box, which the villains know could send them back to meet their fates. With Strange still indisposed, MJ and Ned take the spell box to the statue too, determined to help however they can. Under the scaffolding of the Liberty Island monument, the ultimate Spider-Man team-up unfolds. The villains arrive in force, and initially, coordination is difficult. The three Spider-Men, not used to fighting side by side, accidentally web each other or leap into one another's paths. Electro, supercharged with the arc reactor, blasts at them with lightning from atop the scaffolding. Lizard prowls through the shadows below, ambushing anyone who drops down. Sandman forms a massive, swirling dust storm, trying to envelop the Spider-Men. After a rough start, the Peters regroup atop the statue's crown. Our Peter, labeled Peter 1 by the others, realizes they have to coordinate like a proper team. He has team experience from fighting with the Avengers, which impresses the others. Peter 2, Toby's, smiles nostalgically. The Avengers? That's great. What is that? Together they come up with a plan and assign tasks. What follows is a thrilling, united front, swinging in sync, calling out maneuvers. The three Spider-Men systematically administer the cures. One by one, the villains are redeemed. Peter 3, Andrews, manages to corner Lizard and hits him with the aerosol antidote, developed from Kurt Connor's formula, transforming the scaly creature back into a bewildered one-armed man. On the statue's torch, Peter 2, Toby's, reaches out to Flint Marco's humanity, using the sand stabilizing device to return him to human form. Sand pours off, revealing Flint's face, tired and relieved. He thanks Peter, glad to feel like himself again. High above, our Peter faces off against Electro, with Ned's timely distraction portaling in unexpectedly and Ned chucking a piece of debris at Electro's head. Peter closes in and slaps the power-draining device onto Max. The excess energy siphons away in a brilliant burst. Max collapses, depowered back to normal. In a touching moment, as Peter 3 comes to help, Max admits he'd hoped the Spider-Man in his world would be black. Peter 3 chuckles and says there might be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere. Meanwhile, a recovered Doc Ock actually arrives to help the Spider-Men. Free-willed Otto grabs Electro's arc reactor off Max to ensure the power source is removed, and shares a quiet nod with his Peter Toby, a silent acknowledgement of friendship and gratitude. Just as it seems victory is at hand, the Green Goblin returns on his glider, hurtling in with manic fury. He hurls pumpkin bombs toward the assembled heroes. One explosive knocks MJ and the spell box off the scaffolding. As MJ free falls toward the ground, Peter 1 dives after her, but a glider strike from Goblin knocks him off course. Peter 3, recognizing the anguish of that moment all too well, doesn't hesitate. He leaps from the statue and catches MJ securely in his arms, using a burst from his web to slow their descent. Landing safely, he asks a startled MJ if she's okay. When she nods, he almost breaks down crying, having achieved a redemption of his own by saving her, succeeding where he tragically failed to save Gwen. MJ, though not fully understanding, senses the gravity and gives him a gentle, grateful smile. Atop the scaffold, the spell box is badly damaged by Goblin's attack, causing Strange's contained spell to start spilling out uncontrolled. Doctor Strange, having freed himself from the mirror dimension, thanks to Ned inadvertently opening a portal to let him tumble through, returns just in time to see purple rifts tearing open the sky. Through these cracks, silhouettes of other figures who know Spider-Man's identity begin to appear, threatening to invade this reality. Strange battles to keep the rifts from widening, but he can't stop them unless the original spell is completely contained or rewritten. On the SHIELD platform, Goblin knocks aside Dr. Octavius and engages Peter 1 in a final ferocious showdown. This is intensely personal. Goblin took May from him, and Peter unleashes all his pain and anger. They trade blows on the giant bronze Captain America shield that has fallen to the ground below the statue. Goblin taunts Peter with cruel glee, and Peter, overwhelming Goblin at last, begins to pummel him savagely. Rage nearly blinds him. In a fury, Peter lifts Goblin's own spiked glider, the same instrument that killed May, ready to impale Norman Osborn and end the Green Goblin forever. But Peter too jumps in at the final instant, catching the glider. He stands between Peter and Goblin, his eyes full of understanding and compassion. He doesn't have to say a word. His presence alone pleads with Peter 1 to not cross that irredeemable line. Trembling with emotion, Peter 1 relents, realizing what he almost did. His vengeance would dishonor May's memory, not avenge it. Unfortunately, the Green Goblin takes advantage of Peter 1's hesitation and stabs Peter 2 in the back with a hidden blade on the glider. Peter 2 collapses, badly hurt. Peter 1 rushes to help his older counterpart, who groans that he's been stabbed before and will be all right. Goblin prepares another attack, but Peter 3 tosses the Goblin antidote to Peter 1. In one swift move, Peter 1 injects Norman with it. The Green Goblin's feral sneer fades as Norman Osborn returns to himself, aghast and grieving at the horror he's caused. "My God, what have I done?" he whispers, looking at Peter with tears in his eyes. Peter stands over the now sane Norman, breathing hard but with a kind of peace starting to glimmer in his heart. He managed to stop the Goblin without becoming a monster himself. Above, the fabric of reality is splitting further despite Strange's efforts. Dozens of shapes, possible foes who know Spider-Man's identity from across countless universes, threaten to come through the cracks. Peter knows what must be done. He races up to Doctor Strange and offers a new solution: cast a final spell to make everyone forget who Peter Parker is. Not just that he's Spider-Man, but forget Peter Parker entirely. It's the only way to seal the rifts. If nobody knows Peter Parker, then no one will be coming for Spider-Man. Strange hesitates. This means Ned, MJ, Happy, even May's memory for others, all of it will vanish. Peter nods, accepting the sacrifice. This is what true responsibility looks like. He'll bear the burden alone to protect everyone. With a heavy heart, Strange begins the incantation. As golden light surrounds them, Peter gets a brief chance to say goodbye. Peter first finds his friends. Ned is sobbing at the thought of losing his memories of his best pal, and Peter hugs him tightly, thanking Ned for always being there. MJ, eyes red, tries to stay strong. Peter promises her that he'll come find her and remind her of everything, their love, all they've been through, no matter what. MJ, voice trembling, makes him promise to tell her eventually, to not leave her in the dark. She fears forgetting him without a path to remember. They share a tender final kiss under the flickering violet sky. "I love you," he says. "I know," she replies, forcing a smile through tears, borrowing his own joke from earlier moments. Peter then exchanges nods of respect and gratitude with the other Spider-Men. In a different world, at another time, they could have been lifelong friends. "Thank you," he tells them, as they each acknowledge the profound brotherhood they've formed. As Strange's new spell completes, the rifts overhead shrink and close. One by one, the visitors, the cured villains, the alternate Spider-Men, glow and disappear, sent back to their proper universes with a second chance at life. Norman, Otto, Max, Flint and Kurt will return to their worlds free of their demons. Peter stands with Strange as the sorcerer releases the magic that will make the world forget. Peter Parker. "Goodbye, kid," Strange says softly, a touch of sorrow in his stern voice. Peter has just enough time to look towards MJ and Ned one more time as a brilliant flash envelops everything. Then, quiet. The crisis is over. The Statue of Liberty stands battered but intact, with dawn's light on the horizon. New York's memory has been rewritten. Spider-Man is now a stranger in a mask once more, and Peter Parker is a boy who was never known. In the days that follow, Peter faces this new reality with courageous acceptance. He finds a small apartment to live in on his own, a modest one-room place where the landlord keeps demanding rent, but it's home. The first thing he unpacks is a GED study book. Without school records, he'll have to earn his education back, a challenge he meets with determined optimism. He keeps a framed photo of Aunt May on his desk, as well as the Emperor Palpatine Lego that he and Ned once built together, a quiet reminder of a friendship he must let go for now. Christmas arrives in New York. Peter, in a simple coat and carrying a coffee, walks into the donut shop where MJ now works. She doesn't recognize him. To her, he's just another customer. Ned is there too, excitedly discussing their upcoming move to MIT, their dreams finally coming true now that they are free of the Spider-Man controversy. Peter listens from a distance, heart aching, yet content that they have their futures back. As MJ hands him his coffee, he's a stranger to her after all. He notices the band-aid on her forehead, a scar from the recent battle that she doesn't even remember the cause of. He instinctively starts to reach out, wanting so badly to say, "MJ, it's me," but he stops. He promised he'd tell her, yet seeing her now, safe, smiling faintly and unburdened, he decides not to bring danger back into her life. He smiles politely, simply saying, "Thank you," and leaves the shop with a lonely resolve. Outside, Peter pauses and steals one last glance at MJ and Ned laughing together inside, memorizing their happiness. He whispers a quiet apology and steps into the falling snow. Later that night, as snowflakes blanket the city, Peter visits Aunt May's grave. He stands in silence, placing a bouquet of flowers. Happy Hogan arrives, also paying respects. Happy strikes up a conversation, not knowing who Peter really is. He asks, "How did you know, May?" Peter replies softly, "Through Spider-Man." Happy smiles sadly, "Me too." They share a moment of fond remembrance for May, her compassion, her fierceness, how she helped people. Peter hides the depth of his personal loss behind a gentle smile. Happy leaves with a reassuring pat on Peter's shoulder, remarking that May would be proud of Spider-Man. Peter is left at the grave with his thoughts. He promises May in a whisper that he'll live by the words she gave him, no matter who remembers or who knows. That night, a new Spider-Man, with a homemade red and blue suit he stitched himself using scrap fabric and sewing skills, learned from May, leaps from a fire escape and into the crisp air. The suit gleams in the glow of street lamps, brighter and more classic in design, a symbol of Peter's fresh start. No stark tech, no instant kill mode, just his abilities, his will, and his good heart. A police scanner app on his phone crackles with a report of a burglary in progress. The friendly neighborhood Spider-Man springs into action. He swings high above Rockefeller Center, where a giant Christmas tree sparkles, and then through the canyon of Fifth Avenue, past festive window displays and glittering lights. The city doesn't know the young man behind the mask anymore, but it feels his presence. As he soars between buildings, performing acrobatic flips and moves, he is graceful and free. This is Peter Parker at his purest, doing the right thing because he can, with no desire for credit or fame. Peter's life is certainly lonelier now. No one is waiting for him at home or calling to ask if he's okay, but he's never truly alone. He carries the love of May, the lessons of Tony, and the camaraderie of his two Spider brothers in his heart. And as long as Spider-Man swings through the city, the spirit of Peter Parker lives on in every saved pedestrian, every stopped crime, every friendly wave to a kid on the street. In that, he finds solace and purpose. The camera fades as Spider-Man perches atop a building, overlooking the snowy cityscape of New York. It's peaceful tonight. He listens to the distant sounds of holiday music and laughter rising up from the streets below. For a moment, Peter closes his eyes and imagines May's voice telling him she's proud. A small smile touches his lips. Then, with a thwip of a web, he leaps off into the night to continue his never-ending watch. Under the blanket of stars and snow, a lone figure swings onward, a symbol of hope and resilience. And, though the world may not remember the boy behind the mask, he will always remember the great responsibility that comes with his great power and the great love that gave him the courage to continue being Spider-Man. Mid-credits epilogue. In a tropical bar far from New York, a bewildered tourist named Eddie Brock sits talking to a bartender about the superheroes and aliens of this strange new universe he was briefly brought into. He's learning about Iron Man and Thanos with wide eyes, but before he can do anything with this knowledge, he suddenly begins to glow and vanish. Doctor Strange's final spell is sending him back to his own dimension. He disappears, leaving the bartender scratching his head. Unnoticed on the counter, a small glob of black symbiotic goo, part of an alien entity that was attached to Eddie, remains behind, wriggling slightly. It survives the spell, now alone in this universe. The camera lingers on that tiny black droplet as it shifts and inches along, hinting that even though Peter's slate has been wiped clean for now, new adventures and perhaps a new symbiotic challenge await him in the future. And so, that brings us to the end of Peter Parker's journey, at least for now. From his first swing into the Avengers world, to the quiet, snowy rooftops of New York where no one remembers his name. Spider-Man's path in the MCU has been one of love, loss, and the quiet strength of doing what's right when no one is watching. And while this chapter may have closed, a brand new day is just on the horizon. In 2026, Peter's story will continue, and though the world may not know who he is, we still do. Until then, take care of yourself. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is keep going. Good night.